Hi, I'm Alexis from Living Energy Lights. We are at Living Energy Farm, which is the Community Technology Development Center where we develop the technologies that we are now selling through Living Energy Lights. We have two purposes. We're going to give you a quick overview of how to live off-grid with near zero maintenance cost on your energy systems. You pay no energy bills and you have very, very low ongoing cost in terms of battery replacement, equipment replacement, all of that. Our two purposes are to get good equipment to people who need them, and for us, environmental protection. This lifestyle has a dramatically lower environmental footprint. So we're going to start with the refrigerator. Some of the stuff we do is a big complicated thing to build. The fridge is really easy. This is a Sundancer. There's your brand right now, right there. This is called a DDR-165. It is the only refrigerator ever made, to our knowledge, that operates with zero operational cost. The way it does that, we pop the lid. See how thick those walls are? It has a motor in it that runs from 10 to 45 volts DC. What that means is you can hook it up to almost any PV panel, photovoltaic, solar electric panel, 120 watts or bigger. That's your cable. We recommend a surge arrestor, but you hook it up, there it is, and then it just runs. We've had this for years. Great unit. We sell them. I think the cheapest price on the internet. Other people sell them. But the point of this refrigerator is once you install it, you have a refrigerator that runs at zero cost. That's the only refrigerator that does that. The temperature does fluctuate a little bit, but for the most part, you don't even think about it. You can get different thermostats put in it if you want to run it as a chest freezer or as a refrigerator. The way we run it, we keep our vegetables like up top so they don't freeze. We keep longer term storage lower in the refrigerator. It sits here and runs for years. You never think about it. Zero power bill. Great unit. All right, let's go this way if we would. So just a brief mention here, stop there, biogas. That's not what this video is about, but we are using biogas. Our system, we're going to build a bigger biogas system next year. Right now we've got a small system. So let's talk about water. If you've got a homestead, wherever you live, water is a vital need. So I've helped, part of what happened before I built Living Energy Farm, I helped my friends build off-grid houses. One way to get water to an off-grid house is to have a big solar rack, PV rack, big battery bank, big set of inverters, 2 inverters to get you 20-40 volt power, tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and then this is an AC submersible pump. You drop this down the well, and then you come home at night, all that equipment turns on, you get to take a hot shower at night if you got a water heater. Well, here's the way we do it, which is radically simpler, radically cheaper, and gets rid of all those batteries. It's just a DC pump. This one is made by a German company, Grundfos. Grundfos and Lorentz are the two companies that make helical rotor pumps. That's what this particular pump is. This pump, if you give it to your well driller, they just drop it down the well and they never know the difference. You don't have to tell them it's a DC pump. The way we make up for the batteries, the advantage of the helical rotor is it will give you full pressure even at very dim light. This is made as a residential pump, full pressure all the time, except not at night. We're going to tell you how that works. Even with tremendous power fluctuations. On this farm, we actually have a centrifugal pump because we run big irrigation systems or good-sized irrigation systems, and we want better volume, although the helical rotors is not bad volume-wise. But in any case, you have choices. Sun Pumps is an American company. There's a number of different companies. But you run a DC pump, and then you see this gray tank here. Instead of having a little storage tank this big, you just have a bigger storage tank. Now this tank, it cost $700 when we bought it, maybe a little more expensive now. This tank replaces your big battery bank that costs you $1,000 a year to keep running. And the inverters. Those inverters, the system that this pump came from, a $45,000 system. Big 4 kW sine wave inverter. That thing blows out in 15 years. You got to replace it. There's a few $100s a year just in equipment replacement costs for the inverter. This tank will last as long as I live. It's got a bladder. The bladder is actually replaceable. The top is full of air. Even if the bladder gives out, you can put air in it and still use it as a tank. I'll be dead long before this tank is. The pump you will have to replace eventually, but these are high quality pumps. There's some depreciation on the DC pump, but it's a very small cost, and it makes all of those inverters, all those big power switches, charge controllers, batteries, all goes away, and you have pressurized water. And it's the pressurized water that gets you through the night. The other advantage of this, so it's environmentally, you've got a much lower footprint. It also encourages people to conserve because you live with the rhythms of nature. If you're going to irrigate your garden, you don't do that at 6 o'clock on a cloudy day. You do it the next day when it's a little sunny. That's not a big problem. All right, let's keep going. We're both going to go around this way, aren't we? Homemade bread made from homegrown wheat. Oh boy. So hot water. A lot of people are saying, you got all these people on the internet, country kids or city kids move out to the country. Oh my God, off-grid living is such a hardship. Well, I get to take a hot shower year-round, and 98% of the time it's solar. Here's how it's done. You've got your solar tank. This is made as a solar tank with a built-in heat exchanger. There's other ways to do it that's cheaper if you want. I'm not going to try to explain that right now, but what I am going to show you is this cute little pump. So this is an LCID pump that's a company in Florida, great little pump. This is a closed loop of antifreeze. We use the non-toxic antifreeze, goes up to the roof. There's no computers, no thermostats, no nothing. That little wire goes up to a 20-watt PV panel that's that big on the roof that comes down here and hooks to the pump. Sun comes out, pump runs, pulls the heat off the roof, puts it in the tank. Sun goes down, pump quits. I'll tell you, if you're going to build one of these, if you're a solar installer or hot water installer, I figured out two things in the last 30 years you need to know. Put a 50-pound pressure release on this closed loop, run it at 30 pounds operating pressure instead of 12, and this thing will sit here for 30 years, making hot water every day with no maintenance. Okay, so there's some replacement cost. I'll tell you, the solar electric is pretty cheap, the water, pretty cheap. This costs some more money. You're going to have a few $1,000s in your hot water system, but this runs for decades, making you lots of hot water with no maintenance. Works great. All right, let's go over to our heating system. So 90% of the electricity at Living Energy Farm never goes through a battery. It provides most of our heating needs, 95% of our heating needs, 98% of our hot water. These gray motors, this is the heating system for this building in terms of what's inside the house. It's pulling hot air off of solar hot air collectors on the roof. This is your DC motor. Sun comes out, motor runs, sun goes down, motor quits. Blows the heat into the floor. That's what heats the building up. Incidentally, in this case, we also put a closet around this, stainless steel trays. We made this into an industrial scale food dryer. So again, this motor, we've been running this motor for 7 years now. I've replaced the brushes once. That's like a $3 expense in 6-7 years to provide 95% of the heat for this building. That's pretty cheap. Let's keep going. We are food self-sufficient largely at Living Energy Farm. Swing your camera over here. This is our grain grinder. That runs one of those gray motors. We just grind the grain when the sun's out. So we're not trying to pull that power through a battery bank. Swing around if we could, or let's get, yeah, that's good. All right, so one thing we figured out more recently was solar electric cooking. Again, during the day when the sun's out, the electric heating coils here, these are hot plates, and in the oven, this is a nice quality little electric oven. We use external switches. These thermostats are not going to work DC, but that's okay because the solar energy coming from the PV panels is naturally limited. So we bake, we cook, we do a lot of cooking straight solar electric right off the solar panels. Here's another cute one. A lot of the portable motors you have around your home, if you can pick it up and carry it around, it's actually what's called a universal motor. That motor, that's an AC motor or a universal motor running straight off the PV panels, running straight DC. I'll tell you one of the big tricks about this. We've been trying to export this all over the world. The solar magazines that are selling you solar equipment, they won't talk about us. I've been trying and trying. They don't want to do it because they're making money selling you equipment. They don't want to talk about it. We've been going to the engineers trying to take this stuff into Africa, Haiti, all the places where people don't have electricity. They don't want to do it either because they go to engineering school and they tell you in engineering school a 1,000-watt solar panel will power a 1,000-watt pump. Well, that one pump over there is the same size as our solar rack in terms of power production, power consumption. We can run 3 times as much consumption as production. We can overload the system. It's not free energy. It's just these DC systems tolerate tremendous fluctuations. So when we're doing solar cooking, I can run 3 or 4 motors at the same time. It's cloudy today. We're running at 10% power, and you see that blender, it was running fine. The blowers, we'll get out to the shop here in a minute. We can overload our system tremendously, even in cloudy weather. Tremendous flexibility. The engineers don't know that. They don't want to know that because everybody's making money selling you stuff that you have to replace, expensive equipment. Okay, I'm not going to try to explain all of this electrical spaghetti up here. We do have these 12-volt charging stations. When we did we talked about our iron sun boxes. Those are built into the iron sun boxes. That's the low voltage. That's all your computers, electronics, smartphones, lamps, all of that. The overhead lamps are also 12 volts. That's the big nickel iron batteries. That's a 100 amp hour battery set, about the 10th of what you'd expect to find in a normal home. This is the high voltage switch. So this is 10% of our power. This is 90% of our power. I will show you because we're walking around with the camera. So that's a little bulky to move around. This is a prototype box of what we're going to export or sell through Living Energy Lights. This is our homestead kit. So the batteries in here have the same electrical capacity as the batteries that 10 people have been using for 10 years with near zero maintenance cost. People tell you these nickel irons are a lot of maintenance. It's not true. They're trying to sell you junk that you have to keep buying to replace. Once a month, with that kit, you'll have to walk by, open a valve, and close it for about 10 seconds. That's your maintenance on a nickel iron battery with these kits we're going to sell. And then once every 10 years, you take the batteries, you pour them out, you pour in new electrolyte. That's potassium hydroxide. It's not hard to do. So anyway, as we're going by, we'll just show you that. Let's go out here. Now, I wish I could show you a really nice washing machine. We don't have a nice washing machine. What we're doing is we're working with the producers, which are mostly in China, for better or worse, to try to bring us in products that we can sell. Nobody's making a good quality DC washer. So what we have right now is a cement mixer. That's daylight drive DC. So we do our clothes when the sun's out. You put them in there, you slosh them around, you take them out, put them on the clothesline. We will, in a few years, I think, get a good quality DC washer. But for now, that's what we got. We're headed out to the shop. All right, we are now in the shop. This is a simple dirt floor shop. We're not wealthy, but we've got some good tools in here. We do all sorts of interesting work. This is an old school drill press from the 1800s, daylight drive. So this is a cloudy day. We're at 10% power. I could sit here and cut steel all day long. That would be fine. This is a compressor down here. Hear that turn on? So we've got compressed air whenever we need it. Here's a small bench grinder. I have to swap my plugs around here. Daylight drive. A fan. This is a big fan. Where's my orange cord? Whoa! So that's taking off like a rocket. And that's on a cloudy day. So that's noisy. If I want to ventilate the whole shop, I turn that thing on. If I want a little bit of ventilation, I turn this little guy on. Now this is the low voltage. This is tied back to the batteries. You see, I can turn this up, turn this down. I get a little bit of air if I want that right next to me while I'm working. That's a little speed control. It's called pulse width modulation. We built this one. As I mentioned in the other video, we'll be bringing in some more of these from China. Okay? From wherever we can get them, which is probably going to be China. A big bench grinder. Wugga. What's that fellow wind up? All right, now I'm going to show you a magic trick, okay? So I told you, so right now we've got a 1400 watt supply. That's about 1.5 horsepower. This is a 1.5 horsepower motor. So when I turn this on, this thing shouldn't even run. It's only 10% power, but watch this. I'm going to turn this on. So that's got enough power to grind with. It's going to be noisy. Watch this. Look at that. That's at 10% power. Jesus. Whoa. So on a cloudy day, I can run 2 or 3 motors. On a sunny day, I can run a half a dozen. We can overload the system 300% or more. The engineers don't get this because those people all go home to little apartments. I don't know. All right, so other things, other tricks. Remember the blender in there, the universal motor? Well, your power saws, they're also universal motors, okay? So if I got to cut a big old plate of steel, I can't do that on my other shop tools. I got to do it with this circular saw. That's a metal cutting blade. I'll plug that in and run that straight off the sunshine. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because we set up our system 180 volt, and this circular saw wants 90 volt. So it'll overspin it right now, but I have a switch to switch it over to 90. If you're going to do this yourself, you need somebody who understands electricity. You're going to do 6 panels, 3 and 3. Ours are like that. You're going to do like that. Series, and then the 2 sets in parallel. Then you could run these without throwing a switch. But like if I want to do angle grinding, I've got my little angle grinder. That's my 12 volt. See, that cord is going all the way back to the nickel iron batteries. But if I want to do some heavy angle grinding, I tape the switch on my AC grinder, and I run that off the high voltage. The 90 volt DC, and that runs great. It has got more power on 90 volt DC than it has on 120 volt AC. So that's more shop tools. I showed you this on the other video. We'll show it to you again. There's your battery charger. You just cut the brick off, put a 12 to 19 volt converter, and you're charging up the batteries for your portable tools. You're asking me where my battery is. It's in Arizona because we're putting solar kits out there on the houses on the Navajo and Hopi nations, because those people out there live off grid. They're embracing our technology, which we like. I mean, it's good for them. It's good for helping people understand this technology. So when the battery comes home, I'll have a battery. In the meantime, this little box here, make sure I don't undo my cord. It just moves around from tool to tool. Nickel iron powered. Nickel iron powered. Zoom. So the advantage of that is those nickel irons will last as long as I do. And I mean, these tools, somebody donated these tools. I know they're not the best brand name. That's okay. So that's some of our shop tools. Let's keep going. Oh, watch. Yep. Dragging a wire around the shop, you get in trouble. Oh, you're going to come over there, remember? So you can see me. So this is an old school South Bend metal cutting lathe. I'm not going to claim to be a real machinist, but I've been trying to learn. Daylight drive. There you go, 10% power. I can sit here and cut steel all day long. I have made some cool things with that. I'm learning how to use it. Alza. All right. Okay. Metal cutting bandsaw. Daylight drive. Running off the sunshine. This is a welder that we're going to run off of our pine sap tractor. And this is our pine sap tractor coming together. Old flathead engine. Heat the pine sap, vapor off the pine sap, runs the tractor. Not sure if it's going to work. We're working on it. We want farm-grown fuel. That's a wood gasifier there. Come get a picture of that. That's not daylight drive, but while we're walking by it, we'll get a picture of it. All right. I think you're ahead of me. So this is a garden chipper. Okay, we use it to grind up stuff to go into our biogas digester. Notice that big old motor there. That's a nice leasing off of eBay. Big, heavy motor. This thing on a sunny day will grind up as much as you want. Not going to work so good on a cloudy day. Some of our heaviest stuff we only run when we got good sun. But it works great. Daylight drive. This is the biogas digester. That is not the subject of today's investigation, but there it is. We're going to build a bigger biogas digester. This one works. It's just not big enough to make enough gas for what we need. Let's keep going this way. So this is a big fan. We use this fan for winnowing seeds. This thing sounds like a jet plane when it's running. If I had it plugged in, even in this gray light, it would still sound like a jet plane. We are still using firewood. Within a year, I think we'll be on biogas. We're cooking on firewood. Biogas and the solar electric, I don't think we'll be burning any firewood at all at that point, at least not to cook with. The heating load, it's like we clean out the ashes in the wood stove once every 3 or 4 years at this point. We burn a few fires in January, February. That's all the wood we burn, and the rest of it is solar thermal. What we're doing here is we're storing energy in those storage tanks, in the hot water tank, in the refrigerator, so we're not storing energy in a battery. Okay, but at the end of the road, if we don't have enough energy, we burn a little bit of firewood. This is our firewood saw.
If you had to say about how much wood you burn to keep the house warm every year, how much would you guess?
So the question is, how much wood would we burn in a year to keep our house warm? We're looking at like 2 wheelbarrows, something like that. I mean, it's a little bundle of wood. We start a fire in the morning. The house is straw bale. You'll see that in a minute. So even when we're burning wood, it's just a little bit of wood to heat it up. And people think insulation is expensive. The opposite is true. A straw bale house is the same price or cheaper than a normal house. We'll talk about straw bale in a minute. But as far as cutting the firewood, it's not much firewood. It's 2 or 3 wheelbarrow loads for 10 people for a year for heating capacity. Cooking is a little more, but it's not a lot of wood. It's tree limbs that we pick up mostly. So when we are cutting firewood, doing it with a bow saw, we did that a year or two. That got old. We set this up. This runs off of another daylight drive motor. This is a stationary saw. It looks a little menacing, but it's as fast as a chainsaw. 6 or 8 inch log. You put the log up there, you push that back, it goes round, you move it over, round. Now this is another one that we're going to run on a sunny day because it would be kind of slow on a cloudy day. And if I'm cutting firewood, I want to get it done and go on. Who wants to cut firewood in the dark? That's how that works. All you got to do is do it during the day. So this eliminates the need for batteries, inverters, all those switches and charge controllers, all that goes away. Just a wire from the motor to the PV panels. That's all. Okay, now so what's different about our system? So on-grid power, you got the big power plants, the coal-fired, nuclear-fired. People talk about carbon neutral. Well, I'm telling you, you got a refrigerator, a normal refrigerator. If that refrigerator is running at night, they're burning coal to power it, and even if you got a bunch of solar panels on your roof, that coal doesn't get unburned the next day. It's been burned, period. Our refrigerator burns no coal, no frack gas, no uranium, no industrial solar, no industrial lithium battery banks. They cut out 200 acres of forest a few miles away from us to build an industrial solar field. We don't need that. The reason we don't need that, our systems are very efficient. If you look over there, you see those 6 panels? That's our high voltage system. That's the whole thing, 6 panels. Our system is multilinear, so that is a separate system. If we look over here on the barn, pick up those 2 panels up there. So one of those panels is the lighting and electronics. Another panel is running the fridge. Those are separate systems. We took a lightning strike a couple years ago, knocked out one of our components. Okay, fine. 10 years, the lights have never gone out. We had to replace a little black box. That was under warranty. So with a multilinear system like this, your lights never go out. That's a system, that's a system, that's a system. It's tremendously efficient. It has near zero running cost. It has a dramatically lower environmental footprint. It works great. The reason you haven't heard of it is because it's not a bulk commodity. Okay, all the people, including all the people involved in renewable energy systems, mostly want to sell you bulk commodities. They want a homogenized thing they can sell you and make money. This has to be built in to your system. The other thing that's going on here to your locale is that we're doing a tremendous amount of leveraging. Here, let's walk over and look at the house and I'll show you what that means. So if we get that big piece of glass, that big glass roof up there, so that takes some work to build, but it's not complex. It's black metal, air gap glass. And then we let air sweep under that glass. That's what heats the house in the wintertime. Now this is leveraging. Okay, what that means is you saw that blower when we were in the kitchen. I said that's what heats our building. Well, this is where the heat's coming from, up on the roof. So we're taking a little bit of electricity and we're capturing a huge amount of solar heat with it. We put it under the floor. It's rock and dirt under the floor so that the storage medium is free. And you're taking like 1 watt to capture 100 or 1,000 watts of energy and then store it in a medium that is free. So that's leveraging. The way all the other energy systems work is a kind of inverse leveraging. When you have an industrial solar field going into an industrial lithium battery bank, you're losing energy all the way, and then you try to heat a badly insulated house, you're losing energy all the way. This is making tremendously efficient use of energy, and it allows you to live without a power bill. It allows you to live with a much lighter environmental footprint. Let's get the hot water panels up there so that you saw the tank inside, the tank with the little tiny purple pump. Well, that little PV panel up there, that little solar electric panel, that's what makes the pump spin, and the heat is collected in those hot water panels, goes down to the tank. It's not hard to build, but it's not a bulk commodity, so people don't want to sell it. We want to sell it for different reasons. We're trying to make the world a better place rather than make ourselves rich. Now, we're not going to talk about green building, but I am, given that I'm standing here in front of the house, you notice the windows are on the south side. That's passive solar. Just let the sun come in the wintertime. And then this is straw bale. You can do straw bale as brand new construction. You can do it around existing houses. We could take houses in America. It's better if they're bigger. You got tiny little houses. You can't do all this. But you got bigger houses. This is a multifamily house. You got bigger houses. At least we have a bunch of friends and guests. You can take straw bales and wrap them around an existing house just fine. I've done that with a number of buildings. You end up with a super insulated house at low cost, okay? So if you understand these systems, the other big advantage of these systems, so you can buy an iron sun box from us if you want to. You can buy the components from somebody else, although we're the only ones with the small batteries, but you can get bigger batteries. Qualmega, Iron Edison, those are a couple of American distributors. So you can buy, with the other off-grid systems, you got to buy a big kit or a small kit. If you buy the small kit, you can't do much with it. With our systems, you can buy the little lighting box. You can later on buy a refrigerator. You can later on start adding your shop tools. This is all piece by piece by piece. It's another advantage of it. So we think it's a great system. Really, in the long run, there's going to be tremendous suffering, or we have to live more intelligently. There's off-grid stupid, off-grid smart. All this equipment they're trying to sell you is off-grid stupid, costs you $500, $1,000, $2,000 a year to replace your batteries. This, I hope, is off-grid smart. And I don't know if this answers all the world's problems, but it's a much better system. We're surprised, honestly. Had no idea this would work so well. So now we're trying to help other people do it. If you can support us, great. If you want to buy it from somebody else, that's great. But we encourage you to understand that the bulk commodities they're selling you from the power company, from the normal off-grid suppliers, are all about keeping you dependent on those bulk commodities. This is about energy independence. You get to live without a power bill. You get to live with equipment that will last as long as you live with very little maintenance cost. Have a good life.